Welcome everyone to our last exclusive webinar of 2022 as part of LHH's Alumni Partner Program. My name is Jeremy Kyman and I have the distinct pleasure of serving as the executive sponsor of LHH Recruitment Solutions Alumni Partner Program. I'm confident today's webinar focused on building your personal brand on LinkedIn will be highly impactful for you and your career. As a reminder, we rebranded to our new global brand LHH earlier this year. If you were formerly placed by Agilon, Parker & Lynch, or Paladin, each of these brands has become LHH in 2022. As a reminder, our Alumni Partner Program is designed to provide professional development and personal enrichment opportunities for you throughout your career journey. And this webinar fits well within that goal. For those of you joining from our LHH networking group, welcome. We're pleased to have you on joining our webinar today. I'm excited to introduce our speaker, Sophie Logan, who is the Global Director of Social Media at LHH, which is part of the Adecco Group, the world's leading talent advisory and solutions company. Prior to joining our company, Sophie spent nearly 6 years at LinkedIn, where she worked as a media consultant and marketing consultant for some of the biggest companies globally. I'm confident Sophie's unique blend of knowledge in digital marketing and of the LinkedIn platform will make this webinar especially impactful for you today. So let's go ahead and get the webinar started. Over to you, Sophie.
Welcome everybody to today's webinar. We're delighted to have you here and very excited to share today's content with you, which will really focus on how you build your personal brand using social media with a specific focus on LinkedIn, the world's largest professional network. So what are we going to cover today? We will be covering, first of all, the power of your voice, really looking at why it's so important to use social media to elevate your personal brand and build your personal presence so that you can expand your network, connect with other people who will help you on your career journey, and really become an authority in your space. We're also going to be looking at ways that you can drive engagement on LinkedIn, and we'll be giving you some tips and tricks along the way. And finally, we're going to look at what traits really drive the highest engagement on LinkedIn when it comes to your content. So just to give you a brief overview of who I am, my name is Sophie Logan. I'm the LHH Social Media Director, and prior to my time at LHH, I spent 6 years working for LinkedIn, where I was a marketing consultant, working with some of the largest brands in the world and helping them to elevate their presence on the platform. So let's dive into the content. First of all, just to give some context, I wanted to start with why social media is such a powerful tool for us to leverage. And there are many different reasons, but we've just captured a few here today. First of all, it's the place that you can build your professional network, a place where you might want to connect with past colleagues, with new network connections that you can build a partnership with in the future. It may be that you want to stay connected with a previous employer or people that you want to expand your network to so that you can really learn how to navigate your career in the most optimal way. The next thing, of course, is it's a great place to find career opportunities. We know that there are many reasons for using social media, but finding career opportunities has to be a key priority. And I know that having worked for LinkedIn, thousands of people a day find jobs on the platform, successfully finding their next career step. It's a great place to research companies. You can stay up to date with the latest news. You can find out what's happening within your industry. You can join groups where you can communicate with other people and learn what's happening in your space. So it's a brilliant place to do your research. It's also a great place to learn. So as an expert in your field, You can go and follow people, organizations, publications that really enable you to learn your craft, be that finance and accounting, HR, digital skills, whatever it is. Social media provides you with that wonderful lens through which you can look for learning opportunities. It's also a great place to build your brand, which is what we're going to talk about today. So really enhancing the perception that people have of you as a professional person, making sure that the right people know the right things about you professionally, so that as you navigate through your career, you're building your reputation as someone who is credible, who is trusted, who is an expert. And finally, it's about becoming an authority in your space. So who here wouldn't want to be an authority or be known as an authority in the area that they are an expert in? I'm sure most of us would want to be that person. So social media really allows you to do this at scale. And with a little bit of commitment and consistency, you can become an authority in your space and be known as somebody that people go to understand the things that are most important and are happening within your field of expertise right now. So let's dive in. We really wanted to understand, of course, why is social important, but we're looking at this specifically through the lens of LinkedIn. And LinkedIn have shared some really interesting insights, a very data-rich company that really help us to understand how do people engage on LinkedIn specifically. And LinkedIn is now the largest professional content publishing platform in the world. It's where you can go and gain access to insights to become educated and informed. And that's what LinkedIn members have essentially communicated back to LinkedIn when they've done their research to understand why do people go there. So what are the traits that make content really compelling on the platform? The first thing is it's got to be relevant. So when you're thinking about the content that you share and the way you communicate, really think about, first of all, who's the audience that you have in mind? Who do you want to build an engagement with and impress upon that you are somebody who has knowledge and value to offer? And that really comes from being relevant to what's happening in the experience and the lives of the people you want to engage. So think about relevance. And that can come through conversations that you have with other people. It can come through research that you do to understand what are the most pressing questions that people have got right now, and how can I help them to navigate them? It's educational. So people want to go to LinkedIn to learn. They want to be educated, they want to be informed, and they want to be the very best professional within their space that they can be. They also want to stay up to date with what the latest brands are doing. A really great thing to do if you're thinking about your next career step, or you're thinking about career progression, really gaining those insights to help you to really understand what's important to those brands and what's going on within your industry. People also want to be inspired. You might bring new insights that create intrigue and spark interest for people that they may never have really thought about before, or you've opened up their horizons and their mindsets. And lastly, it's helping people with developing their skills. So this is just a really good insight in terms of what is it that's important when people come to LinkedIn, so that you can craft a content strategy that allows you to be really giving people the content that they want. So you might be thinking, well, what do I have to offer? What's important about my voice? Well, first of all, to set the context, your voice is incredibly powerful. And just to give you some insights as to why that is, the power of your voice is so much greater than any brand could ever be. The reason being is that typically people have 10 times more connections if they work for a company than the company would have followers. So every time you communicate on LinkedIn or a social media platform, your voice is much louder because the connections that you have are much greater. You're also much more authentic. So typically people receive 8 times the engagement on a post than a company receives. which is pretty powerful stuff. And just to give you a little bit of an insight into the algorithm and how it works on LinkedIn specifically, it's been designed really to prioritize the content that comes from people, from individuals. And so when you share a post on LinkedIn, when you share a piece of content, the LinkedIn algorithm will prioritize your content and show it to the people that are your connections, your network, over a brand sharing their content. And you may notice this. So when you go onto your newsfeed on LinkedIn and you look through, you'll notice that there are many, many, many more posts coming from people than there are from companies. Now, of course, there are more people than companies on LinkedIn. That stands to reason. But the content that you're seeing has been prioritized so that it's really relevant to you and it's coming from the people that you know and trust, the people that you're connected to. And essentially, what you do is you allow more people to learn and understand in a more authentic way what you want to communicate, and do that through a sort of advocacy approach. So you are people who other people trust. There's no agenda. There is purely your voice as someone that is a recognized, trusted source of information. So it's really, really powerful. But where do you start? So the first thing I would recommend that you do before you do anything, before you take any action, is really think about, who am I as a professional person? Now, we all have an idea as to how we want to project ourselves generally, but this is an exercise that really helps you to crystallize in your mind how you want to really define who it is that you are as a professional person and how you will communicate and portray your persona. So this is an exercise that you can do, and you can use this really as the first step to building your personal brand on social, but across every touch point that people have with you. So how do we do this? What I would suggest is, first of all, understand what each of these personas are. Now, you may look at this and you may think, I recognize myself as one of these, but I also recognize myself as another. And that's quite common. So you may have a primary persona and a secondary persona. Your primary persona is a persona that, generally speaking, you will want to communicate through. And we'll work through these in just a second. The secondary persona may come in just occasionally. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just talk you through each of these and we can be really clear in our minds about how we'd use this. The first one is the visionary, someone who challenges others, someone who brings fresh, new, sometimes innovative perspectives and points of view that are forward-thinking, future-focused, opinion-based, someone who has real confidence that they understand exactly what's going on in their space or their industry, and they are bringing fresh thinking to the table. The second is someone who's more brand-focused. So when you work for an organization, are you the person who really speaks about the culture, the environment, the purpose, the kind of innovations and trends that are happening within that particular company or organization? Then that makes you the evangelist. Third is the product-focused person, someone who is a true subject matter expert, whose every word really comes back to what you do as a professional person and the expertise that you bring. So this is really a great way to kind of really personify what it is that you do as a professional. And this is called the guide. And finally, we have the mentor. So someone who's much more people focused, someone who talks about leadership, personal experiences, is more of a sort of coach or mentor in how they conduct themselves. They may want to give career advice. They may reflect on their own growth. So you can see here that we have 4 very different personas. You may want to inject some of the secondary persona into your primary persona, but really think about which ones of these resonate most with you. Once you've built your persona, once you understand who it is that you want to portray yourself as, it's really about driving engagement on LinkedIn. And there are a number of ways to do that. One of the best ways is to share content on LinkedIn. Now, this can be quite nerve-wracking for lots of people, especially if you've never done it before. It's much easier to share a post that you've already found than it is to create a post from scratch. But what happens when you share content on LinkedIn? Well, I shared a post for International Women's Day. And this year for International Women's Day, the focus was really around challenging gender bias. And there was a post that the International Women's Day Committee provided to us that I replicated with an image. And I had a post really talking about how I had challenged myself to overcome the bias that I faced. When I shared the post, I added some hashtags, including International Women's Day, and the hashtag that International Women's Day had shared, which was IWD 2022, and a couple of other hashtags as well, just to raise awareness to people that perhaps I wasn't connected to, but follow those hashtags and therefore would have visibility of my post. I have 3,424 followers on LinkedIn. So when I shared that post, all of those people, if they were present on the platform during the period that I posted it, would be able to see my post. I also included a hashtag that's followed by 248 people, which meant I was creating that visibility to people who weren't connected to me, but could have been following that hashtag. I received 164 reactions and 29 comments from different people across my network. The lovely thing about sharing a post on LinkedIn is that you receive data, insights to show you what do those people look like who've been viewing your post. And it gives you the names of the companies, the types of professionals, and the locations that those people exist within. Something that I also did was took the time to thank and respond to people who had made a comment on my post. A really powerful way of keeping the conversation going. It was a really positive response and something that people felt very passionate about. I had sparked a dialogue, a conversation with them. And you want to keep that conversation going, especially when there's such a high level of interest. Now, there is a difference between a brand sharing a post and an individual sharing a post, as we've discussed. And one great example of this was that this lady, Michelle Anthony, Chief Marketing Officer, shared a post on International Women's Day also. You'll see she's in a very similar post to me. We also shared a post from LHH at the same time. So you can see there we've got the one from the brand on the left and the one from Michelle on the right. What we can also see is that the number of reactions and comments was extremely different. So for the company post, it received 130 reactions and 1 comment. When Michelle posted it, she received 312 reactions and 22 comments. So you can see that the power of her voice is so much greater than a brand will ever be. Now, the temptation is just to reshare content you've seen already posted, which is fine. The recommendation is always to share your opinion, your point of view with that. But let's just have a look at what happens between the different types of things that you can do. So one is resharing a post. So this was a post that was shared by our president and it received 18 reactions. She didn't create any kind of commentary. It was simply just resharing a post that had already been shared by a previous company that she was working for. The next time she shared a post, which was a reshare, but this time she included her own point of view in the top of the post. And she received 108 reactions and 4 comments. But this one was really exciting because this is where she created her own post from scratch. And this time she received 767 reactions and 46 comments. Now, of course, it's all relative to the content that you're sharing and how relevant it is to your audience, but it's really good to see the distinction between what happens if you share versus if you create your own, if you author your own posts. People want to hear from you. They want your opinion. So let's move into the traits of the most engaging content on LinkedIn. So what is it that really drives the highest engagement amongst members? So being inspirational is one, being to the point, not being too wordy, making your content very succinct and clear. Giving people a call to action is also a very powerful thing to do on your post. It tells people exactly what they should be doing next. Being visual, so adding imagery, it may be your own or it may be third-party imagery that you've created or found rather. And then video. This really is for people who feel much more confident in front of a camera. And video can be a really powerful way to communicate. There is definitely something to be said for the world that we live in, using a mobile phone and recording yourself. Maybe you have a way of doing that on the way to or from somewhere. Maybe you like to capture yourself first thing in the morning or going for a really nice walk where you're sharing your perspective or insights or something that's happened and you want to give that to your audience. But think of it as a value exchange. What value am I giving to my audience? Every time should be the question that you ask. What will my audience get from this particular piece of content and what benefit is it bringing? So going beyond curating and starting to write your own posts.